The world may not realize it yet, but something big is moving beneath the surface of global politics. Not a rumor, not a theory, a shift, a convergence, a moment where multiple pressure points are tightening at the same time. Moscow, Beijing, Tehran, Washington, Oman. Separate headlines on the surface, but behind the scenes, intelligence sources and diplomatic signals suggest these events are deeply connected. And if those connections harden, the next phase of global conflict may already be unavoidable. Over the last 72 hours, tension has risen sharply across three major geopolitical theaters. In Eastern Europe, the Russia-China axis is strengthening in public view. In the Middle East, US-Iran negotiations are hanging by a thread. And in Washington, Donald Trump has issued a warning that many analysts are calling unusually direct, even by his standards. Together, these signals are triggering quiet alarm inside intelligence agencies and defense ministries worldwide, because when warnings start replacing diplomacy, history tells us escalation is rarely far behind. Let's start with Moscow and Beijing. During a tightly coordinated video call, Russian President Vladimir Putin made a statement that immediately caught the attention of Western intelligence monitors. He said the friendship between Russia and China is now the single most important factor holding global stability together. That line was not improvised. According to diplomatic sources familiar with the call, the wording was agreed upon in advance. This was a message aimed not at China, but at the West. Since the war in Ukraine began, the United States and its allies have attempted to isolate Russia economically, diplomatically, and strategically, sanctions, energy caps, financial restrictions. But instead of collapsing, Russia adapted, and China became its lifeline. Trade volumes between Moscow and Beijing hit record levels in 2024. Energy flows increased, military coordination intensified, joint naval drills expanded into sensitive regions. Intelligence analysts now believe the Russia-China relationship has crossed from partnership into strategic coordination. Putin reinforced this message on Russian state television, warning that the international system is entering a period of chaos, and that unity between Moscow and Beijing is essential to survive it. That language matters. In Kremlin signaling, chaos is often code for confrontation, and unity usually implies preparation. Western analysts are increasingly concerned that this coordination is not defensive. Reports indicate Chinese logistics support has quietly increased Russia's resilience against sanctions. Meanwhile, Russian military planners have reportedly shared battlefield lessons from Ukraine with Chinese counterparts. If true, this is not symbolism. It's operational knowledge transfer. And that raises a dangerous question. Is the world moving toward bloc confrontation rather than isolated conflicts? As this alignment solidifies, attention has shifted sharply to the Middle East. Today, in Muscat, Oman, US and Iranian representatives are scheduled to sit at the same table. Officially, the agenda is limited. Unofficially, expectations are dangerously mismatched. Washington wants broad negotiations, nuclear limits, ballistic missile programs, and Iran's regional proxy networks. Tehran wants one thing only, the nuclear file, nothing else. This disagreement nearly collapsed the talks before they even began, and then came Donald Trump's intervention. In an interview with NBC News, Trump issued a warning that sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles. He said Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, should be extremely worried. That was not rhetorical flair. According to former U.S. intelligence officials, that phrasing mirrors language used prior to past military escalations. Trump did not specify consequences, but he didn't need to. The implication was clear: comply or face outcomes beyond diplomacy. Behind closed doors, sources say Iranian officials reacted with visible concern. Iranian state media initially downplayed the comment. Then within hours, a related statement was quietly deleted. That deletion raised red flags among analysts. Deleted statements often indicate internal disagreement or panic. Intelligence suggests Iran's leadership is divided between those pushing for de-escalation and those warning that compromise signals weakness. The stakes are enormous. The United States believes Iran is closer than ever to nuclear breakout capability. Iran insists its program remains peaceful, but Western intelligence assessments indicate uranium enrichment levels have reached thresholds that dramatically shorten weaponization timelines. This is not speculation. These assessments are based on satellite imagery, procurement tracking, and intercepted communications. At the same time, Iran is under internal pressure. Years of sanctions have strained the economy, inflation remains high, youth unemployment is persistent, and public trust in institutions is fragile. Protests may not dominate headlines right now, but intelligence reports indicate simmering unrest, particularly among younger populations and women, which brings us to an unexpected development that has surprised many observers. After decades of legal ambiguity, Iran has approved official motorcycle licenses for women. Vice President Mohammad Reza Aref signed the directive, allowing women to take licensing exams under police supervision. On the surface, this appears to be a reform, but analysts believe it reflects deeper internal instability. This move follows the massive protests that erupted after the death of Mahsa Amini in 2022. Those protests shook the foundations of the Islamic Republic. While they were eventually suppressed, the memory remains vivid inside Iran's leadership. Intelligence sources suggest the regime now fears another spark, especially amid external pressure from the United States. Reforms, even symbolic ones, are often deployed as pressure valves, but they also expose cracks. Hardliners oppose them, reformists demand more, and the security apparatus is left managing rising expectations it may not be able to contain. In authoritarian systems, partial concessions can be more destabilizing than none at all. While Iran balances internal strain and external threats, another explosive issue has resurfaced in the United States, one that intersects politics, media, and public trust. The Jeffrey Epstein files. The Department of Justice recently released a massive batch of documents connected to Epstein's network. Donald Trump's name appears thousands of times. Trump responded forcefully, saying there is no evidence of wrongdoing and that the issue should be closed. He stated that whatever relationship existed ended in the early 2000s. The Deputy Attorney General supported that claim, saying the documents contain no new evidence warranting charges against Trump or others. But public reaction has been mixed. Many Americans remain skeptical. Social media analysis shows a surge in distrust toward institutions following the release. Intelligence analysts monitor these reactions closely because erosion of public trust is a national security issue. What's critical here is timing. These revelations are unfolding while the U.S. faces simultaneous global crises. Internal distraction weakens external leverage. Adversaries know this. They watch domestic fractures carefully, and they act when attention is divided. Put all of this together, and a pattern emerges. Russia and China coordinating openly. Iran under pressure internally and externally. The United States issuing warnings instead of invitations. Media narratives colliding with intelligence realities. Sanctions tightening. Military planning accelerating quietly in the background. Defense analysts note increased U.S. naval activity in the region. Carrier strike groups repositioning. Surveillance flights intensifying. None of this is accidental. These are signals, preparatory moves, options being placed on the table without being announced. History teaches us that major geopolitical shifts rarely come with formal declarations. They arrive through accumulation. A warning here, a drill there, a deleted statement, a rushed reform, a hardened alliance. By the time the public realizes what's happening, momentum has already taken over. Right now, all signs suggest we are approaching one of those moments. The Muscat talks may calm tensions, or they may fail spectacularly. If they fail, escalation pathways are already mapped. And once those pathways are activated, reversing course becomes exponentially harder. This is not fear-mongering. This is pattern recognition. Intelligence suggests the next few days, and possibly weeks, will be decisive. Decisions made now could shape global security for years, even decades to come.